Good morning, everybody. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to everybody joining us for this morning's virtual CIO Roundtable, which is being held by cybersecurity solutions provider Exclusive Networks and cloud data management leader Rubrik. My name is Mark Forker. I'm the editor of CNME, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. I'm just going to give you a quick run through of the agenda. First of all, after I finish, Murtu Sadasvan, vendor manager at Exclusive Networks, will explain the partnership between Exclusive Networks and Rubrik. He will then hand over to Mohammed Al-Tamimi, Regional Sales Director at Rubrik, who will deliver a very detailed presentation which will highlight some of the solutions they are offering enterprises that can keep them secure and help them build up cyber resilience. Following the conclusion of Mohammed's presentation, I will have a Q&A with Mohammed, and then following that Q&A with Mohammed, we will then open up to the CIOs that we have in attendance. We're delighted to have so many thought leaders joining us for today's webinar. So please, we want to hear what measures you guys have taken in terms of helping keep your organization secure during COVID-19, or maybe you can help give some advice as to how businesses can keep themselves protected. I just want to say the objective of today's session is to examine the importance of cyber resilience, especially in light of the ongoing global COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, cyber criminals around the world are attempting to capitalize on the crisis, and a recent report by Deloitte indicated that there had been a huge spike in phishing and ransomware attacks over the last number of months. This is best evidenced by the disclosure from the World Health Organization, who has seen a dramatic rise in the number of cyber attacks directed at its staff and email scams that are targeting the public at large. Investment in cybersecurity has grown exponentially in the last number of years, but that necessity to be secure has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 crisis as enterprises scramble to ensure that their new businesses and assets are protected as they adjust to what has been described as the new normal. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Murtu Sadasvan, vendor manager at Exclusive Networks, who will explain the partnership between Exclusive Networks and Rubrik. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark, for the introduction. Very good morning to all. On behalf of Exclusive Network, I would like to welcome all to the virtual CIO conference. My name is Murtu Sadasivan. I'm the vendor manager Rubrik at Exclusive Network. So the relationship between Exclusive Network and Rubrik is Exclusive Network is one of the distributors for Rubrik in the region. We basically help the channel partners of Rubrik and enterprise customers to bring a cloud data management solution, what Rubrik is offering with their flagship solution with ransomware protection and with the data management software, what they help to support the customers with the data compliance and data protection, for their on-prem and cloud infrastructure. So to talk more about Rubrik and its offering, I would like to invite Mohammed Tamimi, Regional Director of Sales, Middle East, to talk about the technology and how Rubrik helps their customers to maintain the data protection and compliance in terms of data management. Okay, so Rubrik and Exclusive Network, we go to market together to enable the channel partners and system integrators in the region to support their customers in data protection and data management. Over to you, Mohammed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Murtu. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning. This is Mohammed Al-Tamimi. I'm the Regional Director for Rubrik, covering Middle East, Turkey, and North Africa. I'll be your presenter for today. I'd like to give you a background on Rubrik. So we started our operation in the Middle East 3.5 years ago, exactly. And when we started our operation in the Middle East, we started from scratch. And what I mean by this, we started without having any customers at all. We did not have a partner network even, and we did not have distribution. So we established our operation from scratch 3.5 years ago. Today we stand in front of you and we have between 400 to 450 customers using Rubrik technology in Middle East. So it's a big jump for all of us. 3.5 years ago, from 0 customers, today we have almost 400 to 450 customers using our technology in the Middle East. I'll give you a quick background on who we are. So basically, we have 4 founders. Bipul, he's our CEO. Also, his background, he's a founding investor and board member of Nutanix. Arvin Nitro, he's our CTO, and his background, he was the co-founder of Oracle Exadata and principal engineer of Oracle Cluster. AJ, he's our VP of engineering, and he was one of our founders. And his background, he was one of top engineers who were behind Google search and indexing capability. So this is what we bring to organization and enterprises: Google-like search, indexing, and capability. Also, he's the founding engineer of Riverbed. So when we talk about main site and DR site, WAN optimization and data transfer optimization is part of our solution, which is very key. Last gentleman, Soham, he's our solution architect, and his background, he was a Google staff engineer and Facebook engineer. So these 4 gentlemen built Rubrik from scratch, and we are well known of being cloud data management. Some customers call us next generation backup. But what I'd like always to pay your attention to is, if you look at the background of these customers, of these founders, none of them came from a traditional backup company, correct? If you look at the backgrounds, no one from them came from a traditional backup background company, for a very simple reason. If anyone comes from a traditional technology and tries to open a new company, definitely he will bring same concept and try to modify it and make it better. But in the case of Rubrik, Rubrik is completely new from scratch. We have some investors, and I'll share some names and board directors of Rubrik. Former CEO of Cisco, John Chambers; Mark Leslie, the founding CEO of Veritas; Frank Slutman, former CEO of Data Domain; John Thompson, former CEO of Symantec, also a Microsoft chairman; Enrique Salem, former CEO of Symantec. These are board directors and investors in Rubrik. As I told you, I joined Rubrik 3.5 years ago. Before that, I used to work with Palo Alto Networks, cybersecurity. I worked with them for 3 years. But before that, I used to work with Commvault, with Dell, with HP. So most of my experience, core experience, is infrastructure and backup. And the main reason I switched from infrastructure and backup and I went to cybersecurity in 2013, the main reason I left backup industry and I went to cybersecurity, it's a big switch for me personally, is because backup was very, very, very complicated. Very complicated. And me as a vendor, I wasn't able to have a satisfied customer more than 6 months or 9 months maximum. And then the traditional backup pain points would come up with it, whether it's slow backup, slow restore, hardware refresh, more license, and so on. So that's why I decided to leave backup and I went to cybersecurity. And I know some of the names who joined today's event already are Rubrik customers. Thank you for your business and your trust. And I know most of you are not Rubrik customers yet, and maybe some of you didn't even hear about Rubrik. And to be completely open and honest, I even did not hear about Rubrik until they approached me to join their operation. So Rubrik is a 6 years old company. I've been with them 3.5 years ago. So I joined Rubrik when it was as young as 2.5 years. And I did not want really to go back into backup and data management because I know the complexity and the challenges, and I did not want to go back to that nightmare. But when I studied Rubrik and I saw that they really solved a lot of traditional backup pain points, I decided to join this mission. And what I mean by traditional backup pain point, if we go back in time and we look at the data management and backup, how it did start. It started in early 90s. Personally, I was still in high school. Until today, nothing much has changed. From early 90s until today, you still need to have a backup software, a backup server, a backup proxy, replication, tape, offsite archive. In 2000s, concept of deduplication came out, which is fantastic and great. But if you look at the progress of data management from early 90s until today, nothing much has changed. you still need to have this infrastructure to have a proper backup. You still need to have a backup software. You can name any backup software. I'll not name competition name, but you will notice that many of you have been trying to improve your backup infrastructure by changing these silos. Either you change a backup software, sometimes you need to change the backup server vendor. You switch vendors, hoping to improve this performance, but then you keep falling into the same pain points, and so on. So if you look at these components, all of these have different pain points, but because as part of human nature, if we have a pain point that we are unable to solve for years, we live with this pain, and by time we forget this pain. And this is where we try gently to remind our customers that you still have an existing pain points when it comes to your backup and infrastructure and data management. And we remind you, what about the licensing complexity? What about the ongoing hardware refresh? What about your storage? If you reach 80% or 90% capacity, what do you do to your storage? It only can scale up, it does not scale out. So most probably you're gonna throw your old investment and bring a bigger storage box to start backing up on it again. So what we did basically is all of this infrastructure, we remove it and we introduced our converged appliance that scales out. So in this one appliance, the concept of it, it's a converged appliance. It's not a backup appliance. No, it's a hyper-converged backup solution. And what I mean by this, inside one appliance of Rubrik, inside it, you will have 4 nodes, 4 blades inside it. I'll go back one slide to tell you how we modernize data centers. Instead of this concept, instead of this approach, we remove it and we have one appliance. In our one appliance, we have already the backup software built in from Rubrik. And guess what? We eliminate the concept of license. We don't charge you per terabyte. We do not charge you per feature. We do not charge you per CPU or socket. I know many of you will ask, how do we do our licensing? We have a Q&A session at the end. Feel free to ask us whatever you want. But we really eliminated the concept of license. Our software is built in and in the appliance. And as I said, we do not charge you per feature or per CPU or socket or per terabyte. Everything is as much as the box can handle. If we go to the second components of servers, backup server, proxy server, search engine, and so on. These 4 nodes inside one appliance, inside our one appliance, 4 nodes, they live in a masterless cluster environment. And when we say masterless cluster, it means there is no master node, there is no master blade. All of them are equal. All of them will act as your backup server. All of them will act as your backup proxy. All of them will act as your deduplication and compression. All of them will act as your search engine. All of them will do replication to DR because it's masterless. Why this is very important? Because it's masterless. First of all, high availability is built within. Because if you lose one node, what happens? 0 data loss and backup will continue. Because you did not lose a backup server, you did not lose a proxy server, you did not lose a deduplication engine, you did not lose a search engine. You just lost a node, you did not lose a functionality because of this masterless cluster approach. Another thing we did is the main reason I believe we do backup is to be able to restore. This is the main reason of backup, to be able to restore, la samahallah, in case of disaster, to be able to restore in case of business continuity requirement, to be able to restore in case of ransomware attack. And why do I highlight, and I'm going to speak a lot about ransomware protection and ransomware recovery. If you look at Rubrik started, as I said, 6 years ago. In the year 2015, the ransomware damage globally in 2015 was $300 million or so. In 2016, it reached to 1 billion. In 2017, it became 5 billion. 2018, 8 billion, the ransomware damage. Last year alone, it was almost $12 billion of ransomware damage. And in today's situation, with what's going on, even ransomware hackers are taking much more and abusing the situation. And we're expecting the damage to reach $20 billion. Why? Because hackers started encrypting your backup. So back to my point, the main reason of doing backup is to be able to restore. And when we talk about restore, we talk about IOPS performance. Each appliance of ours has built-in flash, and we give you 30,000 IOPS to be able to restore your data faster. Another thing we solved is scalability. So our solution is a scale-out architect. And what I mean by this, if you have one appliance, let's say it's 100 terabytes, and you started reaching 80%, what you need to do is just buy another appliance, and it will scale out. It will continue to be only one Rubrik cluster, and you can scale out unlimited. Our smallest customer globally is in Kuwait and is backing up between 25 to 30 virtual and physical machine on one appliance. On the other hand, our biggest customer, also in the Middle East, is backing up almost 4 petabytes on multiple appliances as one cluster. So we scale out. You can scale out unlimited with Rubrik. You do not lose your old investments with Rubrik because of our scale out architect. And then you can archive your data to your own private cloud. You can archive it to public cloud as well. So as I said, in our appliance, intelligence is not in the hardware, intelligence is in the software. So we offer you masterless cluster. All of our appliances are 2U in size. Self-healing architect is part of it. Scale out unlimited. We are 100% open API, and distributed file system, where I said it's a masterless cluster, and therefore data is written across all of the nodes. That's why if you lose one node, zero data loss and backup will continue. So from one appliance with 4 nodes, you can add unlimited appliances. So this is how our appliance looks like. It's the white one. And we have testimonies from customers here in the Middle East. If you would like to have a call with them, they are more than happy to welcome you and host you. We had customers who would remove a full rack, a full 42U rack of traditional backup infrastructure that had 120 terabytes of data. They removed this full 42U rack and they just put one Rubrik appliance. But the capacity was the same, but it was in 2U. So imagine the power consumption that we are saving and cooling, and imagine the data center footprint that we are reducing, and most of all, the manageability as well, the cost of your team to manage this infrastructure. Instead of managing racks, you will be managing few appliances only. If you look at the right side, this is how our appliance looks like. 4 nodes, masterless cluster, and they don't share anything. And storage is built in as well. Maybe I forgot to mention this point. Storage is built into our appliances. We're an enterprise solution, so we manage all of your enterprise applications, whether it's physical, whether it's virtual, whether it's on cloud, on Azure, AWS, Office 365, Google Cloud, and we also manage your NoSQL, Cassandra, and MongoDB. So physical, whether it's Oracle or Windows or Unix or AIX, virtual environment, VMware, Hyper-V, Nutanix, and as I mentioned about cloud already. So how does the solution work? First of all, it's very, very simple to set up. I told you I used to work with backup vendors. I used to work with infrastructure vendors. I know how long it takes to implement solutions of backup. It can take up to months to implement. In our case, it's very simple to deploy. A few months ago, we've been fortunate enough to be awarded multi-petabytes project here in UAE. And our competitors' professional services days was 2 months to implement it. Our professional services was 1 week to implement it. So we save a lot of time, we save a lot of money as well. It's very easy to set up. Second point, we're an application-aware backup solution, so we know what is your application. It's very important to have a content-aware, application-aware solution. In case of disaster, in case of ransomware, in case of business continuity requirement, We have a very strong feature of instantly recovering your virtual machines. But not only that, also we can recover your physical SQL and your physical Oracle as well. It does not need to be virtual. Even if it's physical SQL, physical Oracle, we can do live mount. And what I mean by this, in case of disaster, as you can see, the red virtual or physical, you've been attacked. What you can do, you go to Rubrik, and from Rubrik itself, you do live mount to your data. So we will become your data store. Temporarily, we'll become your production. And you can continue working by making your servers and your users access Rubrik, because we have the data and we have the power to live mount this data for you. Of course, it depends. We need to do the proper sizing, of course. Like if you have 100 or 500 or 1,000 virtual machines that you need to live mount, we can do the sizing together. But what we do is we guarantee that we will be able to do this live mount, and we call it near zero RTO. So recovery time objective is almost zero. So within a minute or 2 or 3 minutes, your data will be up and running again. We have customers in UAE, we have ministries in UAE, where on a traditional solution, to live mount 2 terabytes, it would take them 5-6 hours to restore a 2 terabytes. When they tried it on Rubrik, it took them less than 2 minutes to restore the same amount of data. Second point is, after we back up your enterprise applications, of course, we do everything. We do backup, we do recovery, we do replication to DR. Also, we do deduplication and compression. But because we are content aware, so we do content aware dedupe and compression. And what I mean by this, Rubrik will understand your application, and we will understand also the right ratio to do compression or deduplication. So we do not blindly dedupe and compress everything 90%. Blindly, we will not do it. Why? Because if you blindly dedupe and compress everything, when you want to restore, it will take you time. However, because Rubrik is a content-aware dedupe and compression solution, we will know that this is Exchange, this is Oracle, this is SQL, and this application does not require 90%, it requires 85% of dedupe and compression. Why? To help you in a faster restore. After this, you can decide to archive your data wherever you want. You can archive it to your private cloud, whether it's object store, whether it's NFS, whether it's tape, or you can archive it to well-known public cloud, whether it's Google Cloud or AWS or Azure. Also, you have the option to archive it to in-country private cloud. And what I mean by this, we have partnered with Etisalat, we have partnered with Moro, and we are in discussion. We are in early stages with Do, where they can offer you backup as a service or DR as a service hosted in UAE. So we guarantee nothing leaves the country. So if you're interested to speak with Etisalat for DR as a service or backup as a service or Moro, please feel free to approach them directly or through us. Another very important topic is our solution is built for security. And this is where my experience during cybersecurity vendor, it will kick in. If you're backing up your data, but you're unable to protect it, we're not doing the right job. We need to make sure that we back it up, but also protect it. So here's the thing that we do, and this is where our solution differentiates us from other solutions. And this is why we pitch in a lot ransomware recovery solution. And that's why there are RFPs and tenders that came out in the market asking for Rubrik, but as a ransomware recovery solution, not only as a backup. So it's built for security end-to-end encryption. And what we mean by this, we start encrypting the data as soon as we start the backup in transit or at rest or wherever we push it. It has full end-to-end encryption. Now, some of you might ask, okay, but other backup software also do encryption. I'll tell you, yes, correct. But the key difference is they encrypt their data, but they do not encrypt their metadata. Their file system is not protected. In Rubrik case, our file system is immune and our data is encrypted and our metadata is encrypted. Therefore, we give you 2 layers of encryption, not just encrypting your data, but also our file system is encrypted, so hacker cannot change it. Another thing is what we call it native immutability against ransomware. بالعربي يعني مناعة ضد الرانسوموير. And what we mean by this is, as I told you, Rubrik was founded in 2014, and before that we did not really hear about ransomware attacks much, or ransomware targeting your backup. So what customers used to do is, if a hacker encrypt your production and ask you for a ransom, you would not pay him the money. Why? Because you have a backup and you would restore from the backup. But all of us know that hackers are employees. You know, they are people like us. They have families, they have kids to take to school, they have wives to buy gifts for, and they have bills to pay. So hackers, they need to evolve and they need to develop themselves. That's why they started improving their hacking techniques, and they started targeting your backup. That's why if your backup gets encrypted, game is over. Khalas, you cannot do anything if your backup is encrypted. So if you look at all backup solutions, if you look at them, all of them have been created long time ago, before the cloud era and before the concept of ransomware targeting your backup. So they were not built for this. In case of Rubrik, from day one, we built our solution to have this native immutability against ransomware from day one. And what I mean by this, I'll give you an example. If you have a traditional backup solution and you start taking backup, it will take backup, it will do deduplication compression, they will encrypt only data. And then when they save this data in their storage, whether it's object storage or NFS or wherever, it will be saved in a read-write format. If I'm a hacker and I go to your traditional backup and it's read-write format, and it is read-write format, I will encrypt your data immediately. I will write my encryption coding. Why? Because it gives me write access. In case of Rubrik, what we do, we take, let's say you have 500 or 1 petabyte. We'll take backup for this 1 petabyte. We will do deduplication compression, end-to-end encryption, data and metadata encryption. And then when we save this data, let's say the 1 petabyte, or let's say 100 terabyte, it becomes 10 terabyte. This 10 terabyte, we will save it in read-only format. Again, read-only format. What it means, that this copy is a golden image. It's a golden copy. It cannot be changed. Why? Because it's read-only, golden copy. So Rubrik engineer cannot change it. You as a customer cannot change it or modify it, and the hacker cannot change it or modify it, because it's read-only. And then what we do, we start taking incremental backups. Now, the main difference in incremental backups between us and traditional backup, if they take incremental backup, most likely they will do merge in the back end. They will merge this backup. So if you have a traditional backup and you have safe backed up copies, you've been backing up for 1 year and it's safe from ransomware. And then suddenly they back up a new ransomware that's been in your environment. When they take this backup to the 1 year backup that you've been doing, they will merge it. So imagine you are taking this ransomware, you are taking this hacker from your production, you are putting him in your old backup, and you're doing merge in the back end. It's a disaster. You gave him access to everything, he will encrypt it. In our case, this golden copy is untouched, and then we take incremental backup. However, every incremental backup that we take is also follows the same process: end-to-end encryption, 2 layers of encryption, and read-only. So we do not merge them together. We do not merge our backup copies. Every backup copy is a golden copy and isolated from each other. That's why even if we take a backup of a ransomware, I mean, if it's a 0-day attack, you don't have any firewall, you don't have any antivirus, you don't have any sandboxing that will prevent a 0-day. Let's all understand this. 0-day will get into your system. So if we're taking backup of a 0-day, he will be jailed in this copy, the ransomware. He will not have access to previous copies. He will not access to new copies as well. So this is a main site and DR scenario where we have a Rubrik appliance in the main site and we have a Rubrik appliance in the DR site. If in case your production goes down, you can do live mount from Rubrik appliance that is in the primary site. If all of your primary goes down for any case, you can go to Rubrik and also do live mount from the Rubrik appliance in the DR. Another use case for Rubrik, again, it's out of the box, is test and development environment. We see many customers would invest in a test and development scenario. In our case, you don't need to invest in a test and development SAN. Out of the box, no extra license, test and development is part of our solution, where you can go to Rubrik and you can create a test and development environment. You can use, there are different use cases for it. One of them is you're having a new software and you need to test this a new software patch. Instead of testing it on a production, you go to Rubrik and you tell me create a similar environment for my production. And then we will create this environment, and then you can test this new software and you can see how it's behaving. And then later on, you can decide to roll it out or not. So it can be as a staging period. Another use case is a sandboxing environment for security purposes. So let's say you suspected that you've been breached, let's say 1st of May. So what you do, you go to Rubrik and it will act as a time machine. You will tell Rubrik, please take me back in time to 1st of May and give me this copy, make it live again. Rubrik will go to 1st of May and you can live mount this 1st of May in front of you in an isolated environment. Then you can ask your security team to walk in and investigate and see what happened, and they can do all of the scanning and security things they want. And as I said, you back up on-prem, you back up primary site to DR, and then you can go to in-country private cloud, as I said, Etisalat, Do, or Moro, or Microsoft Azure or AWS, or if you have your own private cloud, which we can also help you create. Some customers who would like to utilize a public cloud or in-country private cloud as a DR, it's also available. So you will have only a Rubrik appliance in your primary site. However, you will have a Rubrik instances in Etisalat or Moro or Do, or you will have it in AWS or Azure. So in case if you want to have a disaster recovery center in cloud, you can have it as well. Because we're a software-defined backup solution. So everything is managed by our software. You can back up your data anywhere. You can restore it anywhere. This will give you a high level on having Rubrik in your primary site, having Rubrik in your public cloud, in hybrid cloud, in remote offices and branches. You can back up your data anywhere and you can restore it wherever you want. We have different models, go-to-market model. So the on-prem solutions, either you have a Rubrik branded appliance, or if you want only to use our software, you can use our software on industry hardware such as Cisco, such as Dell, or such as HP. There are certified pre-approved models between both of us where you can have just Rubrik software running on this hardware. So if you have a framework agreement with Cisco or Dell or HP and you standardize on a certain vendor, we can offer you a software only. For remote offices and branches, we have a Rubrik software only. It's called Edge. And as I said, on cloud, we have cloud native backup where you will have Rubrik software in the cloud. What we like to highlight is, yes, we're coming out with a new technology to the market, but again, it does not mean it will be expensive. No, we would like to show you an exercise with how we are reducing your total cost of ownership, especially if you calculate it over 3 years or 5 years, and especially if we do the proper exercise. So when we say Rubrik reduces cost, we cannot compare Rubrik with your backup software only. No, we need to compare it with the backup software, with the backup server and proxy server, with the operating system that you need to have on these servers and on your storage, and then on the annual maintenance and software license as well. We have different models. As I said, our appliances are all same design to you in size, but the only difference is capacity. So we have capacity for small environment to growing environment, all the way to enterprise and large scale. So if you want a solution for 10 terabyte or 20 terabyte, we have. If you have petabytes, again, we have. You just scale out the appliances. And one more point, you can mix and match as well. So if you have a small appliance with a medium appliance with a large appliance in one cluster, it will work together, and it's backward compatibility. So we have customers in the region who's been our customers for 3 years, and they're ordering more appliances, the new appliances, and with the 3 years old appliances or 4 years old appliances, it will work together. It's backward compatibility. We focus on support. So what we offer to our customers, we don't offer standard support. We do not offer basic support. What we offer you is premium support. So whenever we have 800 number in UAE. Whenever you call our 800 number, you will be transferred directly to our support engineer, not to a call center, but to support engineer directly. And it's a 24/7 follow the sun model. Also, there is a general NPS, Net Promoter Score, and this is after sales survey from customers on the product and on support. Again, hardware is hardware. There will always be a problem, but how fast can you fix this problem? How soon you can do software dispatch? How soon can you help me fix my problem? This is the key important thing. And our score is 82. So for us, as I said, we're a cloud data management. So backup is just the beginning. So what we do is this data that you are collecting on our appliance is very important and very key. How can you benefit from it? So we introduced Rubrik Polaris. It can give you global management, ransomware recovery, data policy, application orchestration, information governance, and data intelligence. And what I mean by this, as I said, backup is just the beginning. Our platform, we have different applications. Backup is one of them. DR is one of them. DR on cloud is another one. But what we also introduce is we have something called radar. And what we do by this is we study the behavior of the backup. So it's a behavior analysis of your backup. And what I mean by this is when we start doing backup, and then on this radar behavior analysis of the backup, we will see that your daily average backup is 10%, between 10 to 12%, for example. And then suddenly we see this 10% became 20%. This is unusual behavior for the backup. It's unusual to see it from 10% to 20%. This is unusual. So what we do, first of all, we send you security alert. Second of all, we can integrate with your security solution. We can integrate with your SIM solution. Because if a backup goes from 10% suddenly to 20%, this is unusual. Most likely, it means something has been encrypted in your production, and we took this backup because it's been encrypted. So you see this big spike. It's something to look after, you know. However, we give you this visibility. If you look at it now, you don't have this visibility. So we give you this visibility. It might be false positive, you know, it might be new loads, but again, it's better to see this unusual behavior. Again, of this 10% of usual daily backup, if this 10% becomes 2%, again, it means something is unusual. Maybe an employee deleted some files. Maybe this employee deleted them by mistake. Maybe he deleted them intentionally. Or maybe there is a hacker who's in your environment and he's deleting files. Again, we will give you this visibility and we send you alert and we can integrate with your SIM solution. Also, what is more dangerous than deleting a file? I strongly believe what is more dangerous than deleting a file is modifying files. Modifying files, it's very, very hard to notice because it's a modification. However, it's very, very dangerous. So from our radar, you go to radar and you tell Rubrik radar, show me by one click which files has been deleted. Rubrik will list all of the files that has been deleted. Another click says which file has been modified. You click on it, Rubrik will immediately tell you which files has been modified. And then you can say, okay, restore to original copy. Again, we give you this visibility. That's it. Thank you for your time. We always say don't back up and go forward. Thank you.
Hi, Mohammed.
Hello, Mark.
That was a fantastic presentation. A really forensic, detailed explanation into some of the solutions you guys have. I found it fascinating. I just want to ask you some questions based on that presentation. As I said, I found it really informative and engaging. One of the things that jumped out at me was you said the direct damage of ransomware attacks exceeded 12 billion, and that's going to increase to 20 billion, which is just astronomical. You obviously highlighted and articulated really well that the journey Rubrik have gone on since its inception 6 years ago. You guys have had a lot of success. Is it that ability to negate ransomware attacks that ultimately differentiates Rubrik from other cloud data management companies? Because it's a very saturated market, it's very competitive, there's a lot of people wrestling for market share. So is it your ability to say we are specifically created and designed to negate ransomware attacks? Is that what puts you guys ahead of the curve?
Correct. Our immutability to fight ransomware is one of our key distinguished features that we bring to the market. And back to the point of the ransomware damage, if we go back to 2016 only, it was $1 billion in 2016. 2019, $12 billion. Big difference. It's massive. And the expectations in by 2020, 2021, it will cross. It will reach $20 billion of ransomware. That's massive. So if you look at the average cost of ransomware, it's really massive. So yes, ransomware protection and immutability to fight ransomware is a key offering. If you go to our website and you see customers case studies about ransomware, how I believe we have a ransomware story on a hospital in Europe where all of the hospital was targeted by ransomware. Everything was encrypted, and it's a hospital. You know, it's not data. Data is very important.
The NHS, I think, wasn't it?
I don't remember the name, but when we talk about healthcare, we talk about lives. You know, it's a matter of life or death. So in few hours, this hospital was able to go back to business because they had Rubrik. So Rubrik was not touched. It was immune against ransomware. Yeah.
No, again, it's a fantastic answer. And I think another thing you touched on as well about your enterprise backup solution is the simplicity. You highlighted that it's really simple to implement, and the time to market in terms of implementing is really short. Is that another differentiator that keeps you ahead of the curve, is the fact that the solution is that easy? And how has the market responded to the solution?
Yes, simplicity is very key, especially when we talk about implementation. Now, again, I used to work between 2011, 12, 13 for 3 years with one of the market leaders in backup. But I remember clearly implementation would take months to complete successfully, and this is really painful. So we really focus on simplifying our product because it's all in one box. It's all already preloaded and integrated. All what you need to do is just implement it and just do the configuration. And one point I forgot to mention about simplicity is we don't believe in backup jobs. Backup jobs is the concept of traditional backup, where you need to have a separate backup job for every environment. You can have tens or hundreds of backup jobs. In Rubrik scenario, we don't believe in backup jobs. We have SLA. So based on your business SLA, you will configure Rubrik, and then you will say, for this VIP environment, I want 24 copies a day. Give it to Rubrik. Rubrik is a self-learning, intelligent backup. It will understand the customer environment, and it will ensure to give you 24 copies a day. It's not backup job, is backup at 1, then backup at 2, then backup. Sorry?
24 copies a day, is that what you said?
Yeah, if we go to traditional backup, you need to schedule backup at 1 p.m., then backup at 2 p.m., then backup at 3 p.m. You know, it's a blind command. It has to start at 1 or 2 regardless. In our case, no, Rubrik is intelligent backup, so it will know which backup window to do this backup, and it will bring you your 24 copies or 12 copies a day.
That's fantastic. So not only are you saving time, you're reducing a lot of cost as well, especially in terms of the implementation phase.
Operational cost, definitely. Implementation, yes. And the feedback we get from customer that the employees, they don't spend much time on the backup anymore as much they spend it on development and other more important things. We tell customers, leave the headache of backup to Rubrik and focus on much more important things.
That's great. So you guys sort of position yourselves to look after the backup, and then that frees those guys to focus on what they want to focus on, which is the developmental side of it. So that's fantastic from a Rubrik perspective.
Yes.
I just want to ask you another question as well. You sort of said that there's flexibility or autonomy in terms of your go-to, or you can choose your model or go-to-market model, and it was, I think you said on-prem, and then it was Rubrik Edge and cloud native. Are those options customers can select, and if so, which one of those options are more popular with customers based on your experience?
Very good question. So yes, the models that I said, we have on-prem solution where it's a Rubrik branded appliance, or it can be a Rubrik software only running on HP, Dell, or Cisco, depending on the customer size, decides and environment. What we see customers mostly are going with Rubrik branded appliance. However, we start seeing more customers utilizing Rubrik software only because they would have a standardized on a certain hardware vendor. Rubrik Edge, as I said, is for remote offices and branches, and we see it a lot with customers who are having branches, of course. But the good thing about these three different models, whether it's Rubrik on-prem, whether it's remote offices and branches, or cloud, it's all one single software, you know? So that's why you can give full visibility and full control on all of your data. If today you're backing up your data on-prem and you need to archive to cloud, Rubrik is ready to archive to cloud. You don't need a gateway. You can immediately archive to Azure. If you're having Office 365, you can have Rubrik backup as well on Office 365. If you're having your servers on cloud, you can have Rubrik instances on cloud to back it up as well. So we give you all of this flexibility.
That's fantastic, and obviously that's what everybody wants as well. Everybody wants that flexibility and autonomy to choose what path they want to take. So again, that's another great differentiator for Rubrik. Look, thanks a million for the answers. They've been great. Final question, obviously, in terms of cloud, we've seen a huge growth here with data centers being established here in the region that has addressed the issue of data sovereignty. In terms of your market visibility across the Middle East, I know you're responsible for a lot of different markets. Which market is the biggest one for you guys in terms of countries? Is it the UAE? Is it Bahrain? Can you just give us a little bit of an overview of Rubrik's presence here across the region?
Sorry, in terms of what? In terms of cloud adoption or Rubrik presence?
Just in terms of Rubrik's, visibility across the region. I mean, what markets are you guys in, and what regions and stuff?
So ideally, Saudi Arabia is the biggest market, but in our case, actually, UAE is our biggest market, where UAE represents almost 54% of our business coming from UAE. And again, it goes back to vision of customers and how early adapting mentality they have. Because Rubrik was a new technology, and really to adopt and embrace a new technology, you need to have this courage and brave to embrace a new technology, and this is where early adapting mentality comes in. So today, as I said, our business 54% comes from UAE, and around 35% comes from Saudi, and then from the rest of the region.
Fantastic. Mohammed, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I just once again want to thank you for your presentation. It was fantastic, and for your responses to my questions. I think they were, again, very detailed and fantastic. I'm just going to, obviously we have a number of CIOs online here as well. So I'm just going to, I think there is an option, I think they're unmuted, I'm sure. So just if any CIOs have got any questions in relation to what Mohammed has just spoken about, can you please raise your hand, and then I'll be able to unmute you, and you'll be able to ask the question to Mohammed directly. If there is, don't be shy. Mohammed won't bite, either will I. So
no, maybe I can give discounts. I can give discounts for questions.
Listen, what an offer that is from Mohammed. He's offering discounts for questions here. No, we do appreciate you guys obviously listening in, and you've been online for over an hour now. So we do appreciate your participation, but feel free, even if you guys don't want to speak or ask the question directly, you can type it into the question box, and I can direct it to Mohammed. Just going to check if anyone's raised their hands.
Also, I have with me Mehmet. He's our solution consultant. So if there is any technical questions, he will be able to answer it as well.
Brilliant. Thanks for that clarity. I think Partha Banerjee has raised her hand. So if you've got a question, feel free. Hello,
Yeah,
Partha, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, have you got a question for Mohammed?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask him that does it do backup and recovery from Linux environment where SAP HANA is running?
SAP HANA on Linux. Mehmet, can you answer this?
Yes, we support SAP HANA running on Linux. Yes.
So in a Linux environment where SAP HANA is running, you can do the backup, yeah?
Yes, and it's certified by SAP as well.
I see. Do you have any references to this effect? Do you have any installations where you have done this?
Yeah, we can provide that one-to-one, of course.
I see. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So this is what I wanted to know from you. And that's about it all. I think your presentation was excellent, very explicit, and good to hear that you can do that. Thanks. Okay.
Partha, just whilst you're on there, just a question for myself. What did you find? Obviously, you thought the presentation was excellent, as did I. What were the key takeaways you found in terms of Rubrik solutions? What jumped out at you that you found particularly impressive?
It's basically the flexibility and the services which you're offering, and the ease of use. So it's good. I mean, I think the spectrum which you're covering is pretty wide, and the one plus point which I see which you have over most of your competitions is the scalability option that you have, and so that's quite good. I think you have a uniform controller for all the models, and they can be scaled up and scaled down as per the customer requirement. And then of course it's, I think, completely SaaS based. So I think investment wise also, there is a scope for investment protection. So it looks good to me. Depending on, of course, like, I mean, how you have priced it, and in this market, how cost effective your solution would be. So those are the points which needs to be looked into.
Yeah,
That's
thank
fantastic.
you, Partha. Thank you, Partha, for the feedback.
Thank you very much for your inputs there, and I'm sure Mohammed will appreciate the feedback on his presentation, and obviously.
Yeah. Also, Partha reminded me about our that we eliminate the concept of license in the beginning of my presentation.
Yeah,
so. Yeah, and what I mean by this, if you buy a Rubrik appliance, let's say if you buy a Rubrik 100 terabyte appliance, we will not charge you on your front end data. If you're backing up 10 terabyte or 20 terabyte or 50 or 100 or 200 or 300, if it's after deduplication and compression, it's fitting in our appliance, it's all yours. I don't know what the solution you use today, but I am sure that they charge you per CPU or socket, or they charge you per front end terabyte. How many terabytes we're backing up?
We are using the SAP backup and the SAP built-in backup system, and we have we are on SAP HANA S4, so our infrastructure is on Fujitsu. Yeah, so our infrastructure is on Fujitsu clustered environment, of course, and it's in premise. So and our data size is also not that huge. but then it's good to know that, because maybe in some time from now, I could be looking for a solution which is, a backup and recovery solution. Right now, SAP and SQL backup is sufficing the purpose, but with the increase of data, I may be looking at a solution which could offer me cost-effective backup and recovery with seamless integration to Linux and SAP HANA S4. So,
Sure. Yeah.
So it was, good to know about Rubrik. And do you have any references in the Middle East where you have some users who are using this?
Yeah, in the Middle East, when we started 3.5 years ago, we had 0 customers. Today, we have more than 400 customers in the Middle East using our technology, and we have a few of them.
Do you have some reference in SAP HANA Linux where you have got any reference in this particular environment?
I can double check for you which customers, but I'm sure we do have the references, and I'll check for you. And if you'd like to have a call with them, we can arrange it, of course.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That will be nice. You can just send me. You can just drop me a mail, and we can have a look at it.
Okay. Sure.
Right. Thanks so much. Okay. Bye. Take care.
Thank you, Partha. That was an excellent discussion.
Yeah. Thanks.
Between yourself and Mohammed.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing if anyone else has raised their hand. Is there any other of our CAOs online that wants to ask Mohammed and his technical expert any questions? We're running out of time, so if you've got any questions, let me know. I think you're all quite happy at what has been discussed here. As I said, and as Partha alluded to as well, it was an excellent presentation from Mohammed. But if you've got any other questions now, I'll give you another few seconds. Nah, I think everyone's happy enough. If you do, obviously, as Mohammed has said, reach out to the Rubrik team if you've got any questions following this roundtable discussion. Reach out to them, find out more about their solutions and how they can help you. So we can, after this, we can put you in contact with the guys from Rubrik if you do want to. I know some people prefer to do it offline and don't want to do it publicly, which is fair enough. So I think I'll just end today's session there. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us for today's roundtable discussion. I want to thank Murtu for his brief note earlier explaining the partnership between Exclusive Networks and Rubrik. I obviously want to thank Mohammed Tamimi for a superb presentation. Obviously, a lot of time and effort goes into a presentation, and sometimes it's not easy to always articulate your points, but I think he did it excellently, and he did it in a way where everybody could absorb and consume the information that he was providing. So I want to thank you, Mohammed, for your presentation. I want to thank Malika for all the hard work she has put into setting this up, and Amy as well from CPI. It's been a team effort. So I just want to say on behalf of myself, it was a pleasure to moderate this session, and on behalf of CPI Media Group, it was an honor to be involved in this session today, and I want to wish you all the very best, and stay safe, stay healthy. And from me, I just want to say thanks a million. I'll hand you back over to Mohammed now, and maybe Murtu, who also want to say a thank you. But from me, thanks a million, guys.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending our presentation. I hope it was beneficial, and I hope we managed to share some new information about Rubrik. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to help you. We can do one-to-one sessions. We can go technically deep with your guys. If you need the POCs, we can arrange POCs. If you want access to our demo lab, we can give you a 1-week access to our demo lab. We can teach you how things work. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mark and Exclusive, for arranging this as well.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thank you everyone for joining this session. And once again, stay safe, and hope to see you soon, with the Rubrik and the team to discuss more about the solution. Thank you once again.
Thanks, Martu.
Thank you.